Welcome back, Inebriart. This is Andy, and we're recording live in person, which I feel like never happens anymore. And we're with Camara.
That's me.
Author, who I met because I needed copies.
Well, I'm happy to provide them.
Yeah, so we were doing prep work for the Hometown Haunts and Hops, which if you follow the show, I'm sure you are familiar with, because we had a couple panels we put up as episodes. And I think I had a ton of printing done that day, and I gave you guys some comp tickets, and you were like, "Are you still booking vendors?" And I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah, it was like a 2 day before the event type of situation.
So it was such a whirlwind. I'm going to apologize, because I know you're an author, and then your book's about monsters.
Sure, yeah.
And that was about the extent of my memory, because it was just, I was so overloaded.
That's about all I said. Like, you gotta have different lengths of pitches depending on how much time you have.
Oh my god,
So, like, the quick 5 second is like, it's about monsters.
Yeah.
You know? Just throw it out there. But, yeah, it's a lot more in-depth than that. It's about many different types of monsters throughout human history. So, like, you have, like, a vampire in, like, Roman gladiator times, and then there's a sequence that takes place in Salem witch times about this quote deformed individual, and there's like witchcraft involved. So all different types of styles and creatures and stuff like that, and it plays out like an anthology. And then chapter 6 is modern day, and it's about a poacher who is capturing and collecting all of the monsters from the previous stories. So you see his dungeon, and you see all the cages, and you see it's all of the characters that you had met as antagonists in the anthology series. Now they're there as just prisoners.
Oh, interesting.
They're trying to escape. So that's the premise.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So kind of like, I don't know if you've watched this, but did you watch What If?
Yes, I did watch.
So kind of that, like, all individual stories, but then it kind of comes back
exactly, around. With the most different possible tone of all time.
What is it about monsters? And the thing that I find interesting is I listen to, like, a lot of podcasts, obviously, but like I dig history and like medical and stuff like that.
Sure,
and the term monster used to be like a medical diagnosis, which is just like so ridiculous.
So is moron.
Yeah. I mean, just some of the stuff they used was like unbelievable.
Was great,
But So what is it? What was the appeal about monsters? Is it kind of like the misunderstood nature?
I mean, that is a part of it. I mean, I grew up on the Universal monster movies.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was the first kind of film series where it's like what Marvel does now. Characters showed up in each other's movies. So, like, you got Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. This is like the first crossover in film history.
Yeah.
Right? It was like the 40s. And then you got the House movies where you got Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman all together. And it's such a cool premise, and the posters are, like, awesome. There's, like, Frankenstein holding the Wolfman with the neck, Wolfman snarling back. It's a great premise, and then you watch that movie, and they, like, barely interact, and the last, like, 1 minute, maybe, of that entire film is them, like, trying to strangle each other for, like, a little bit, and then everything explodes, and it's like, wow, I feel like you could have used this premise a little more interestingly.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I remember specifically... I'm not sure if it was a Universal movie, but it was Frankenstein versus Dracula, or Dracula versus Frankenstein.
Sure.
And I don't know if they ever appear in the same scene at the same time.
I know, it's highly misleading. Like, they're all on the poster, right?
And the movie premise is so obvious based on the title.
Yeah,
it's about aliens.
Oh my god!
Trying to get all the monsters so they can, like, use them as an army against humans. And I'm like, what the hell am I watching?
That is spectacular.
Yeah.
I resign as an author. That storytelling has peaked. I think we've reached peak. So I basically said, like, I'm going to stop complaining about it. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And I created a story that involved every type of monster I could think of: vampires, werewolves, creatures from mysterious lagoons, just everything. All types that I could possibly think of into one book. There's, like, easy, like, a dozen, maybe even 15, 20 types of monsters in here if you really get into the nitty-gritty, because there's chapters that have, like, things I won't spoil. But all types of monsters are in this book, and they're all interacting with each other at certain points. And as the book goes on, those interactions become more and more prevalent. So I really wanted to do something that I I really wanted to tackle from like a character perspective and make it a little more interesting than things we've seen before. If this book existed, I wouldn't have written it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have written the book if I had already read something like this, but I really believe this is like the only Monster Mash book played serious to this extent and level of monsters in it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
Hi, this is producer Fish from the editing booth. We ran into some technical difficulties and ended up losing a couple minutes of the episode. We come back to Andy and Jake discussing Andy's decision to force himself to finish watching The Walking Dead.
And like zombies are like attacking the house, and zombies are trying to come down the basement stairs. And the basement windows are broken, and there's water pouring in like waterfall level, and the basement's filling up with water. I'm like, they don't live next to a river. It's raining outside, and it filled the basement. So much water.
That's insane.
And then as they're like pulling them out the window to rescue them, there's like, I don't know, a quarter of an inch of water puddle. And I'm like, you should be standing in a lake. I was so angry. I'm like, this is so stupid.
This is like the latest season?
I think it was like season 10.
Jesus.
9 or 10.
Okay.
But it was just so like tropey, dumb.
Yeah, Negan was like, what, 7?
7, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is, like, he lingers around, and the whole time, like, how are they going to redeem him? Because he kind of becomes a good guy, sort of.
Of course, because they got to market their guy. Right?
Yeah, and it's.
I remember.
I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put it on the actor. He does become likable.
Well, it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course. Like but it's like if you stop and think about it at all, you're like. No, he was a horrible monster.
Of course.
Yeah.
He's like the worst. He's like the worst.
Yeah.
I remember the exact, I don't remember the episode, but like the exact point where I fell off was there was a big deal about getting a bullet, and they finally got a bullet, right? And this girl, one of them, went to shoot Negan, and the bat blocked the bullet on accident.
Oh.
I was like, fuck this. No way.
Weirdly, that's from the comic, though.
No way.
Yeah. I don't know if it happens that way exactly, but there's like a big thing about like Lucille getting shot.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you need to adapt things if they're really that dumb.
Yeah.
No way. But yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But in like even in the comic book, there's like a giant bullet hole, like
a hole,
like a huge hole through the bat.
And you can still swing it.
Yeah, but
right.
Yeah.
No, the bullet just stopped, just dead stopped because the wood is so thick.
It's yeah, and then I swear, like part of the time I'm like, is that an aluminum bat or wood? Like, there's just so many like not awesome things about it as it went on, and
so yeah, I was not into that.
I am looking forward to being done with it.
Oh, I don't need to look forward. I'm already there, my friend.
But you know, it's like and so there are bad movies that sometimes like it's tough to get through, or like you need to do in a couple sessions, or you know, or you tend to fall asleep because they're dull.
I will admit I have not fallen asleep during a movie. I don't know what it is about me. Like if I start watching something, I will either have to finish it or just turn it off and move on.
Yeah. Do you record together?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. Every Saturday we all hang out. It's like 3 or 4 of us, and we just we go over like what we need to. Like, oh, Blue Beetle's out. That was a recent thing. Oh, we got to commentate on that because we, that's the last one we haven't done yet. And then, oh, my dealer's choice is Michael Clayton, which is a surprisingly not as good as it should be nominated film. And yeah, we did those 2. Those were fun. But yeah. So the Universal Monster series, we still continue to this day because Renfield and Demeter just came out last voyage, and Renfield is on the channel.
Renfield is the one with Nicolas Cage. Right?
Yes,
I really enjoyed that.
That was a good one.
I liked it.
That was a good one.
Not at all what I was expecting, but I liked it.
No, yeah, definitely not.
Yeah,
but no, I'm a Dracula like traditionalist. I like him like terrifying, but I'll take campy. It's a little fun.
Yeah.
And then Demeter was exactly what I was looking for.
Demeter.
Last Voyage of the Demeter just came out. but that's also a Universal Dracula film. So it counts, quote, as the series.
So you must have included the Tom Cruise Mummy.
Of course.
Because that was like their whole, like, we're going to bring back the whole...
Yeah, it's when that movie came out that we decided to do it. Because we were like, wow, this is attempting to be a cinematic universe. And we look back at it, it's like, oh, it was. Historically.
Yeah.
I'm in black and white. Fuck it, let's go for it. You know? So we, Ian and I, just one co-host and I, tackled all of the original series, and then our third co-host, Mud, joined along, and then sometimes our fourth, Joquin, pops in. So it's, it gets more as it goes along. But yeah, rewatching all those and commentating on them is what inspired me to write The Devil's League. In fact, the title, The Devil's League, was inspired by the original title for House of Frankenstein was The Devil's Brood.
Okay.
So that kind of tipped its hat in that way. But I wrote it as a testament of this is what Universal could be doing with their characters, but isn't.
Yeah.
Like, this is the path to them actually being successful. Imagine if the Mummy was good.
Right.
And it made Mummy at the box office. Imagine if it didn't.
If the Mummy made Mummy?
Yeah, exactly. You understand.
Oh, the Mummy money.
Mummy money. It's what it's all about, baby. But, yeah, imagine if, like, they had made, like, good films with their characters and then brought them together. That would have been incredible. I would have been there day one. I wouldn't have written the book. But.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like we live in an exciting time because, one, there's a lot of avenues for people to get stuff made. Netflix, Shudder, all these things. And it's never been, you have people shoot movies on iPhones and, doing short films that are getting, what was, there's one called like The Back Room?
Yeah, that was a viral YouTube.
Yeah, which that dude got like a film deal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anything that goes viral is going to go to Hollywood eventually, but whether or not it happens is another thing.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to see like someone like yourself who puts out a book. If that book gets in the right hands, then who knows where it could go.
God, I hope. That would be so fun. Imagine, and that could go either way. I could either license it to any studio, or I could license it to Universal and swap out, couple creative changes, boom.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind either way. Obviously, I wouldn't mind either way.
But it's also one of those interesting things is like once you sell it, especially, no offense, where you're a new guy, you probably not have a ton of control.
I'm offended.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because we interviewed, this is going back, this guy Ian Morris. He actually just, he's got a new movie coming out. It's about the Samoan soccer team. I guess they're like one of the worst soccer teams of all time.
Yep.
And he created the show In-Betweeners for the BBC.
Okay.
And MTV tried to bring it over here.
Okay.
And, like, talking with him was really interesting because, he's being professional, but being like, yeah, they fucked up my story. Like, they changed everything.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. It's just one of those...
I mean, as an author, like, if you're going to sell your property, it's all about what terms that you guys agree to. There's a good... I think it's a quote from a movie, but I forget what one. It was like, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So,
that was good.
Yeah. I kind of I see that in a lot of projects in Hollywood, especially when like authors are getting involved. So like, were I to do something like that, I mean, obviously they would never give me creative control. I'm not like J.K. Rowling powerful. Yeah. But I would be like, okay, give me like a royalty on like everything. So if you make like 100 of these movies, I want every single one to pay me, even if they're terrible and people hate them. Yeah. I still can look at that and be like, at least I got this out of it.
Because some of those, even the terrible ones, make a ton of money.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to be part of that.
Yeah. I mean, the what was it? The greatest negotiation thing I ever heard was when Lucas is like, I'm going to keep all the royalties for the merchandising.
Yeah.
Star Wars,
my God. Yeah.
Like that's
what made him. Thing.
And everyone was like, yeah, fine, whatever, no one cares.
No one cares.
Yeah, and then like, oh, we get it now.
Big time. Imagine, you could never do that today. No one would ever sign off on that.
And there's all sorts of like weird, I'm sure you've seen The Fifth Element. So I used to own a comic book shop and sold action figures and shit like that. Cool. And there was always like this, there should be Fifth Element action figures, and no one would ever make them because you don't make an action figure line unless you can make the bad guy. And for some reason, as part of Gary Oldman's contract, he owns the rights to that character, but
Really?
has no interest in using it in any way, shape, or form.
He owns the rights to that character.
To that character.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So if you were to reboot Fifth Element, you couldn't use that character without his consent.
Without his permission. Yeah.
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
But it's Gary Oldman, so like people are like, yeah, sure, whatever you want.
You get what you negotiate. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Sam Jackson has in his contracts that every shoot he does, he has to golf for like a certain number of weeks, and they pay for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can write whatever you want to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because the Hometown Haunts and Hops was like the first time we've ever dealt with contracts. You know, of any kind of, and they were pretty straightforward.
All right, I'll make mine a lot more vigorous when it comes to your next event.
That's all right. You're gonna print them out anyway, so I got to double read it.
Damn it.
But no, and it's just interesting, like kind of this whole negotiation thing, and there's a definite back and forth, and there's, you know, being the promoter, there's that point where you're just like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And like my concern was that doing that was going to upset them.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't.
Well, it's interesting because from your perspective, you're the venue guy, so you're the one who takes in all these creative people and tries to keep them organized to some extent on the same place at the same time, doing the same thing, and just make sure everybody involved is relatively happy.
Yes.
Like, that sounds way more challenging than writing a book, man. That's insane.
And it's funny because like people ask me, they're like, oh, how'd it go? And I'm like, well, no one got hurt. And they're like, that's a weird way to start. And I'm like, well, when you start getting crowds in the hundreds,
Yeah.
that's a real risk.
That's a standard.
Yeah, you know?
There you go.
And then you're like, no one got hurt. Everyone seemed to have a good time. And then
Yeah.
I worked my way down.
It couldn't have got better.
Yeah. It can always go better.
Yeah, fair enough.
But in there, it's negotiating the contract. It is, the thing I learned is just not personal. Like, I'm telling this person no to something they want.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, okay.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh,
This is what it is.
You're not mad? And then there's other people who, I'll explain more off the air, who, let's say, aren't as important as the celebrity guests we're flying in, that, are so demanding and want things. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. You're out of your mind.
Oh, my God.
And it almost feels like the less famous someone is, the more expectant they are. And I'm sure that flips somewhere, because it has to flip somewhere.
It's gotta.
But, you know, in the small group of people that I've worked with, the bigger name they are, the more chill they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That's what it seems. I mean, there were 2 or 3 relatively big names at your recent event that I went to, and, you know, at the end of the event, before I packed up, I was like, I'll just walk around, say hi, and freaking these people were so chill.
Yeah.
Like the girl from Scream.
Leonora. Yeah.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
She was fun.
And then, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. I think it was like Michael or something.
Matthew,
that's what it was.
Matthew Taylor. Yeah.
Dude, he's so funny. Like, you wouldn't expect that.
They were so nice. And, like, I drove them to the airport on Sunday. I managed to not have a hangover.
Nice.
Yay me.
I'm proud.
I'm very happy. I woke up on time and everything.
Nice.
And they were just so nice and so pleasant. And then there are other people where you're just like, bro, why? You could not show up and I would have been totally okay with this. Yes, it's difficult. But how was the experience for you? Like,
fantastic.
Was this when did your book come out in relationship to the show?
October 1st. I wanted to go as the Halloween season went on. And
so it had only been out not even a month at that
not
point.
even. Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah.
And that was the first big event physically I did. I did a few podcasts, I did a few appearances, but like that was the first physical event that I did for that book. And yeah, it was awesome because I got there and I saw a bunch of people like me. I saw my fellow authors. It's really funny because I run the local print shop, as you know.
Yes.
And so there was some authors where I walked up and I was like, "Hey, I know your book." She's like, "Have you read it?" I'm like, "No, but I print
was
your
it
signs."
Julie?
Julie,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, I print all your stuff. I did this sign."
Yeah.
She's like, "Wow, cool." So we exchanged numbers that way. It was really cool.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
She's great.
Yeah.
She's so funny.
There's just such a cool. when I moved to Plymouth, like I started getting involved in the art community, and then the music community, and then the stand-up comic community, and like so like I have all my like fingers in all these different like creative pots, and there's just so many like amazingly skilled creative people in the area, and they're awesome. I just some days I get really frustrated by my job, but that's what makes it a job. But
exactly.
It's just like I get to hang out and talk about books and movies and stuff with people, and like
we do that recreationally. We don't even get paid.
Yeah.
We do and we don't. We get our YouTube channel is monetized, but it makes so little a year. It doesn't even qualify as a business.
That's still pretty. We put the podcast up on YouTube, but that's not really the platform for it.
Right.
We just kind of put it there.
Well, you do what, like sponsors and stuff, or just?
So we do get the occasional sponsor. Our podcast is more a labor of love than anything else. The events is, what
I know the
keeps
feeling.
us in business. Oh yeah, yeah. But getting monetized, that's quite an accomplishment on YouTube.
Thank you. It's 4,000 hours a month and 1,000 subscribers, and that's it. And if you hit that benchmark, even if you go below that benchmark, which on occasion we have, you still maintain seniority.
Oh, nice.
We just hit it once.
Yeah, and we, like I said, our Inebriart one, like we have so many ideas for stuff, but it's just a matter of like, it's not the content we create doesn't make us enough money to sustain our lives.
Right. No,
so we can't commit more to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes like this balancing act, and we have so many ideas of content we want to create. And there's some video stuff up on the Inebriart channel, but not a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it was like a COVID project.
Sure.
There was a D&D cookbook that dropped I found out at the beginning of COVID. So we were filming all the recipes just because it's COVID and we're bored.
Sure, yeah.
And there's one that's filmed that's been sitting on my computer probably for like over a year, and just don't have the time. So I think we have like 6 or 8 episodes, but it was more just me messing around, learning green screen, and but that's kind of that fun part of it. Like I kind of it's you can do it as much or as little as you want. So I lost my train of thought. So we put the podcast up, and we had one particular episode get like 20,000 downloads.
Hell yeah.
In 4 or 5 months.
Oh wow! Would you have like a special guest or something?
It had been up for a year at that point.
Okay.
And once it started going crazy, I texted my producer and was like, "Did she get arrested? Did she get cast in a Marvel movie? Like, what is going on?"
It's one of the two.
And she mentions a movie that she just finished shooting in the podcast, and I was like, "Oh, cool, whatever."
Sure. Yeah.
Just kind of went on with the rest of it. And it is, as far as I know, it's the latest movie by the guy that did Human Centipede.
Oh.
And it is controversial to say the least. And he, like, right around November that year, he started this, like, I'm being blackballed. They won't put out my work for this, that, and the other reason. And then it's like you watch the trailer and you're like, that's not why they're not putting this.
Exactly.
It's like, this is a fucked up movie.
Yeah.
And it had gotten released in Thailand.
Okay.
And so, like, a huge chunk of those downloads were, like, from the Thailand area.
Right.
A lot of it was just because he was controversial at the time, and like we saw our subscribers shoot up by like, I don't know, 50, 60 in the hour.
Wow.
And it was just like this, like it became like every morning you'd wake and be like, how many more do we have? It's really exciting.
I know the feeling. So one of our series that we commentated on was the Wachowski movies. All the directed movies. And they did the same numbers that any other series does, except Speed Racer. That popped off for us.
I forgot that was
them.
Yeah,
that was them. That popped off because for whatever reason, when you search up Speed Racer race scene or Speed Racer car race, whatever, any of those terms in the search bar, we have excellent SEO for that video. So we pop up as recommended as our commentary, in which we gave it a negative review. so we constantly, it's still to this day, it's got like 80,000 views, man. We have all types of new people seeing the channel going like, these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about. These guys suck. Like, we get them fucking daily.
Yeah.
So of all the videos to pop off, it was of course that video, which only shows up for people that already like that movie.
Right.
Of us saying they don't like the movie.
That's funny.
So, but hey, that was one of the reasons that we finally got monetized, because we got enough traction off that. And there was one day, and like what you were talking about with like, oh, how much today, because we're popping off. It's a few years ago, Speed Racer trended.
Yeah.
And our metrics just shot up. And it was all that one video, because it kept popping up, because everyone was searching Speed Racer.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit, we got like, what, 10,000 views in a couple weeks? We'd never do that. That's insane. So, or less even. I forget. It was such a fun time. But our sub count just kept growing and growing and growing. And now it's obviously back to how it was. Now we're all just like big vibing again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's good to know that like if that or Abbott and Costello, those movies, if they trend for whatever reason, we got ones that hit the SEO on that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
The Universal Monster movies, but
Right,
those
right.
specific ones get thousands. I don't know. No idea why. But you know, good to know that if any of those ones that like gain a little bit of traction, if that subject ever trends,
Yeah.
we're back, baby. We're in there.
It's funny, like, and that's part of like we have, I think 370-ish episodes of this podcast,
Mhm.
somewhere in that, and is that right? Something like that. I don't remember.
Well, honored to be the 371st.
Don't quote me exactly on this. I'm rounding.
Sure.
But you know, there's those times where it's just like you put one up and you'll be like, "That's so weird that one did extremely well," you know. And then I remember the first one. Looking back at it now, you're like, I mean, it did well for us at the time.
Yep.
And it was this local artist. Hasn't done a ton. Like we were so starting off. We started with like friends and friends of friends, and then you know acquaintances. This was just kind of a vague acquaintance that you know artist, but not a lot of credits to her name. Very local, and got like 3 times the normal downloads that we would get, and like from all over, like from Saudi Arabia and like all these places, and we're like, why her? You know, then you're like, does her last name mean something in another like there's just so many like weird, you can never tell. We did an Old Colony Cast episode about Whitey Bulger. That does really well on YouTube.
Sure. Yeah.
And we interviewed did you ever go to King Richard's Fair?
Oh yeah.
Do you know Jacques Z. Whipper?
The whip guy?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So we had interviewed him, and right as he was like starting his whole TikTok thing, because he's huge on TikTok.
Sure.
And
Seems well suited to that.
yeah, and so like that episode did exceptionally well. You know, so it's just it's almost like this scatter shot. You put out a bunch of content, and then just hope that one of these up and coming bands.
That's exactly it.
You know?
That's exactly it. Or like one of these movies starts trending one day, and that pops off, and that brings in more people.
Is there a movie that you guys watch that you're like, this one's gonna be huge, and then just never?
We never go in with the expectation of like this is gonna be amazing, because we want to temper ourselves. Because
What do you mean, even the movie itself? Like you thought, like this is gonna be
oh, you mean like going to watch it? Yeah. Honestly, that's a high number. Marvel's movies as of late, you know, I keep expecting them to be like the next $1 billion, but you know and for many reasons they're on the downward trend in terms of box office. They'll make that back immediately as soon as you know any years pass. They'll go back to where they were. But like I don't know, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania tanked. Marvel's is the worst grossing of them. So
I haven't seen that one yet.
Of course you haven't. No one has.
which is weird because I think it's the only Marvel movie I haven't seen in the theater.
Well, I can tell based on the box office.
Yeah.
No, I see them all opening night. Actually, it's funny. When we were scheduling this podcast, I said Thursdays are my day off.
Yeah.
That's because I get Thursday night premieres to new movies when they release. I have my work schedule slated off for that.
Oh, cool.
So that I can go see everything the night before.
What's coming out?
The next thing that we have tickets to, I think, is Aquaman too.
Okay. Do you guys get comped tickets?
I have A-list, so it's like Netflix for AMC. You pay like 20-something bucks a month, and you get 3 movies a week for free.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll never see more than 3 movies a week.
That's
at
a lot.
theater.
Yeah.
So it's a great service. If you see 2 movies a month, it already is worth it.
Yeah.
Versus paying for 2 tickets. So that's definitely my thing. But we just saw Godzilla -1. That was a great movie.
Yeah.
That was so fun.
I haven't seen that yet. My buddy will, and that has been one of those things that I'm realizing as our business grows, we run a lot of evening events.
Mm-hmm.
So people are like, oh, you want to go see this movie? I'm like, yes. I don't know when.
How's 11:30 on Tuesday?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You up for a matinee? No,
Yeah, exactly.
No, I have a real job.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I can imagine your line of work is predominantly like post 7 p.m.
Yeah, like tonight our event ends at 8 and I'll be home by 9:30. I'm like, woo, early night.
I get to watch TV, go to bed.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I'll come home and work on the computer. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's the grind.
Yeah. Do you? Is this like Jake's goal, like to create content, or did it just kind of happen that way? And
I've always been some type of storyteller. I've always liked to do that stuff. I pursued film for a little bit, but I actually got accepted to Cannes Film Festival. My short film Beard won entry, and then COVID hit. That was in 2020, and when they came back in 2021, they have strict rules about like no film from the previous year may go in, even during COVID.
Oh,
so I didn't get to know. Yeah, it sucks.
That's terrible, man.
Yeah, it is what it is. But I don't know. I still got my passport. I'm going to use it next year because the eclipse is in April of 2024. It's in Mexico.
Okay.
And it's a total solar eclipse. It's like one of the biggest since like the 2017 eclipse. And I wrote the book. The modern day sequences build up to and take place during that eclipse.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
It's thematic because when all of the eclipse aligns, that's when all of the monsters align in the same place at the same time. So it's like thematically relevant. So I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
And just enjoy the eclipse that I fictionally wrote about.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, did you know about that eclipse and then work it into the story, or are you like, I want a specific eclipse?
Yeah, I knew about it. Because it took me like a year and a half to write the book, and I finished it right around a year before that eclipse is due, which is now due in like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
But I had always baked it in as part of the story. I wanted some significant astrological event to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, I don't know, thematically made the most sense for the book. What I was trying to do. And that's why the Australian who grew up in Massachusetts is currently living in Mexico with his father's mansion and its money. There's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
He's a worldly man. He travels around the world, captures a monster, comes back. It's his whole deal.
Yeah.
But very international. But he ends up there, and that's where the shit just breaks loose. Like there's just, I don't want to spoil too much stuff, but there's some wild stuff that happens in that book.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's been out now
about a month.
Two months? 2
Yeah,
months.
it's December. Holy shit.
Overall, like, are you pleased with how things? Are you starting to get like responses back on it?
I mean, I'm getting reviews here and there. I sent out my copy to a few online reviewers, and a few of them got back to me. A few of them haven't received the book yet, and a few have received it, but I haven't heard anything. So it is what it is. It's part of the grind.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I did that. It took a surprising amount of money to like kickstart my first book. I think my second book, if I write one, will not be this expensive. But based on the sales and based on my comp rate per book, because I'm not obviously I have to. If a book costs $20, I make like $3 off.
I was gonna say
retail. Yeah. So it is what it is because you have to pay the shippers, the printers, and the retailer like Amazon or Barnes and Noble. So I make a little bit of that. But looking at it now, I'm more or less broken even.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which means
in 2 months, that's pretty good.
Yeah, in a few months, I'm almost there, like about $100 away.
Yeah.
So, I can look at it as a worthy investment. I mean, I would have done it anyway. If I sold no copies, I'm proud that I did it. But it's just nice to see that, like, hey, from here, it's only going to sell more. It's not going to sell less.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I'll just...
it could be one of those, like, there's a a dude I follow on TikTok, and he's a TV writer, and he'll open his residual checks on and
$50.
some of them like $2.73.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, straight up.
He wrote one episode of something that aired like 3 times, and he, you know, and it is, I think,
$2. Jesus Christ!
It
is what it is. You know,
and it's one of those things that I think like, and I'm realizing that more as my business grows. And it's a creative business, and we're always trying to like come up with creative ideas and new things to do. And it's really not. I think people have a misconception about like, oh, you know, podcasters, YouTubers, they make their show and then YouTube pays them. It's like, yes, but then they get sponsorships and merch, and
that's where the real money is.
The merch is like you see. I don't know if have you heard of Critical Role?
Yeah.
Every week, here's a new piece of merch. And it's like, that's where they're making their money, you know?
That's why they can keep doing Critical Role as a job, not recreationally.
You know? And it sometimes I'm like, oh, I mean, we have merch, but I never push it, and it's just, I don't know. And then and then my kid texts me, they're like, hey, I just saw an Inebriart shirt out in the wild, and I'm like, oh, was he like a super like handsome guy? And they're like, no, he kind of looked like a crack addict. I'm like, awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's you know, it's from doing like live shows, and you know, there's just the best way to be in business, I think, is have diverse revenue streams. Because if one of them dries up, so it's like, yeah, you may be getting $50-$100 from your book, but over the course of a lifetime, it adds up.
Exactly. And, you know, if my book reaches enough people where that justifies that, I'm 100% making the most merchandise ever. I literally work in marketing. That's my whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I would
Did
love to do that.
you make any merch yet?
No, not for the book, because I don't feel like the audience is expensive enough.
Yeah.
It's getting there, hopefully, but it's happening currently. We'll see what happens.
Is there a sequel in the future, or
man, here's the thing. I'm not stupid. If it sells 1 million copies, I'll write 100 Devil's League. I mean, I definitely have story inclinations. I know exactly what I would do with the sequel. I know the exact path I would take.
Yeah.
And I wrote that book to be relatively conclusive. So, like, if nothing else happens from that point, you can just enjoy it as its own book. But there are teeny little threads that are there that if you look close enough, you're like, oh, this could lead to something insane. I baked those in on purpose to know exactly what I would want to do.
To branch off.
Yeah. But, I don't know, I'm kind of weighing the cost-benefit, because it took 1.5 years of, like, my life, like, of the free time in that 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And do I want to spend that again for a similar result? I don't know. And plus a sequel, it would only appeal to people that have already read the first one.
Right, yeah.
So would that not be as beneficial as just writing a new book?
Yeah.
I don't know. So
yeah, and, you know, and that's... I am a firm believer in there's 2 types of stories. One where you came up with an idea and you wrote it down and it has an end. And the other is you like world build and be like, there's lots of stories in this world.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily follow that character. And when you try to switch those 2 things around, it never works. I mean,
it's not too much to ask for both. You know?
We've all seen the Matrix sequel.
But, I mean, we've all seen, you know, film series where it's like backwards compatibility. So, like, The Matrix, the first one, is a standalone tale, but can also have sequels, you know? Yeah?
Can it?
It could have had a good sequel. I maintain that.
I think the newest one, which I can't even remember what the hell it was called.
The 4th one.
Yeah.
Resurrections.
Was the best of the sequels.
It is the best of the sequels.
By far. Because
Yes!
I'm like, this is such a good idea.
It is. It's better than 2 and 3 combined.
2 and 3 were terrible.
2 and 3 were the worst.
But
Dude.
even like with the Star Wars TV shows, for lack of a better term, Disney Plus shows, I find the ones that are far better are the ones that take place in the world of Star Wars that don't involve the main characters of the Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Because you have more to play with. It's less like, ugh, you know, like, I don't know.
Although I will say the original trilogy is a great example of New Hope stands on its own, but Empire and Jedi are both awesome too and carry on that journey. So.
Yeah, I mean, but even in the beginning, George Lucas is like, this is 3 movies. Like there was those are, yes, they're standalone movies, but they're acts of a
larger story. Yeah.
He was a little full of shit when he's like, I have 9 movies all written, and then you watch the other ones and you're like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
You might have had ideas.
Oh yeah, we all have ideas.
Yeah,
sure.
But
yeah, no. After I think it's so funny. People are like, "Oh, give Star Wars back to Lucas." It's like you saw the prequels, right? You know, that's going to be worse than whatever Disney is going to be doing.
Oh, you have touched my heart so much because I don't mean that. Like, how old are you? Like
26.
26?
7. I just turned 26.
I find most people your age shit all over the newest, whatever you want to call that.
They're fine.
They're okay.
Okay.
And love the prequels.
I don't get that.
And I'm like, the prequels are garbage.
They're terrible.
And I think it's like that nostalgia, like I grew up on them kind of thing.
I think that's exactly it.
Dude, episode 2 is so long and so the love story's ham-fisted.
2 is the worst Star Wars movie.
Of all time.
Of all time. Except the Clone Wars film, if that counts, because it's a film. That was terrible. But no, Attack of the Clones is the worst one. At least like Phantom Menace and the third one, you get those amazing lightsaber fights.
Yeah.
But there's just nothing in 2. Like, Anakin T-poses during the lightsaber fight and gets his arms cut off, deservedly.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? It's so stupid. Oh my god.
And the thing that drove me crazy about the second one is they spend so much time talking. This is a normal thing, by the way. I had a huge Star Wars, I believe the same conversation with the dude who voiced Invader Zim.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Although I think he was pro prequels. In the second movie, they spend so much time talking about Sifo Dyas, who never appears. They never explain who he is.
I don't remember who the hell that is, and I love Star Wars.
He's the person who like ordered the clone army.
Who cares?
They talk about him constantly in that movie, and he means nothing. They don't ever come back and talk about him. Like,
I thought I was big into Star Wars. I don't even know that name.
Because it drove me...
That's insane.
There's like a couple of movies that like make me angry, and that is like one, because I'm like, why are we talking about this guy? He means nothing.
Oh my god, dude. No, Clones is the worst.
Yeah, it's so bad. I love that. I love that for you. Everyone, go out and buy Jake's book because he hates the prequels.
Yes, that's not relevant or why. But
but I feel like it makes you a wise person in what makes a good story.
Well, I like to think so.
Yes.
But thank you. I appreciate that. It's called The Devil's League. It's out now wherever books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Some dude on the street with a trench coat who's selling drugs. He's got my book. Everywhere. Everywhere you want to buy a book, it's there. It's tinyurl.com/TDLJC is the Amazon link.
Okay.
I made it really easy because I just want to be able to like hand it to people. Speaking of, I actually have.
Your card has like a QR code on it.
My card has a QR code and the logo, which of course is an
Yes,
Instagram.
I have that on my desk.
Ah, good, wonderful.
Because I went to like email you and I scanned that and I'm like, shit, his email's not on this at all.
Contact information. No, I gotta make business cards with contact information. A different set of type of people to hand that out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, but thanks for stopping in on your day off.
Of course.
And
wow, that seems super fun.
And I'm sure we'll have some more print work to be done.
You better. What the hell? This is all just marketing for me. My Staples store. I just want more business, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're printing up anything anytime soon. To be honest, I mean, we I say that now.
That's all right. We're overloaded. It's Christmas right now. So
oh yeah.
Steer clear until January.
Yeah, it's such a weird time for us because everyone's like, oh, it must be slow for you. I'm like, not really, because like we have Christmas parties and
this is the time that events would be a big deal.
Yeah, and like people are like, oh, we need to catch up. It's around the holidays, so they want to go out and do stuff.
Hell no. How about January when nothing's happening?
Even January is pretty busy for us because there's less going on and people like. Our slow time is like late July, August, and September. because people don't want to go inside to like a comedy show or a paint night.
Right.
Like I want to go to the beach or like do a cookout or whatever.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then September, like back to school, always screws people up.
It's the worst.
So, yeah. But Tanya, what's the name of your YouTube show?
It's called Hot Quality Content. That is the channel, youtube.com/Hot Quality Content. It is a super fun time. We upload weekly if we can.
It's
usually weekly.
That's a commitment.
It
like,
is.
Trust
We
me. Yeah.
try.
There's a reason why I'm like, can you come in this week? Because my editor's like, we have nothing in the can. I'm like, shit.
I'm your guy. Don't even worry about it.
No, I appreciate it. And listeners, go check it out. Devil's League.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, no worries, man.